Inside the Lions, blue and silver pride. With the podcast rolling, take that ride. Rise and grind, Detroit's calling out. Football dreams in every shout. Tune in, feel the energy ignite. Oh, rise and grind, take flight. Each play, each kick, we feel alive. Echoes in the city as the fans arrive. Heart of the motor, in the screen. We're bound together by football dreams. Rise and grind, Detroit's calling out. Football dreams in every shout. Tune in, feel the energy ignite. Oh, rise and grind, take flight. Hey, feel the unity, the pride's electrified. There, under the stadium lights, where legends thrive. Every touchdown, we're close to clock west. In Detroit, we stand. Get down there. Rise and grind, Detroit's calling out. Red football dreams in every shout. Tune in, feel the energy ignite. Oh, rise and grind, take flight.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Tuesday, January 28th, and we are coming up on the close of another month. And we're headed into the final month of the NFL season, the final game, the showdown for the Super Bowl. It's too bad we're not in the Super Bowl this year. I thought we were going to make it, Riley. I don't know what the hell happened. But we're going to talk about a lot of different topics this morning. Not really going to touch on the Super Bowl at all, but we are going to touch on some free agency rumors, some trade rumors, some ideas. Talk about the top 100 free agents here for a moment. And then we'll get into our NFL news and Lions news. But before we get into all of that, man, how's it going out there in Utah this morning? How you doing?
Doing well, man. It's a nice start to the day. There's no place I'd rather be than the Rise and Grind Morning Show with you, with everybody in the chat. So let's get this party started, man.
Yeah, so everyone knows I am dizzy as all get out today. Not sure what's going on, whether it's the new meds or just my neck, but I'm going to try to get through this. But if I've got to end it, I'll end it. But we'll get through it the best we can today. That's the goal.
You were a game time decision?
Yeah, I was a game time decision. Told Riley at 7:45 if I'm not feeling it, I'm going to end it for the day, and we're going to gut it out, man. It's the only thing I know how to do, honestly.
Yeah, that's just the approach you take.
Yeah. I got to get this thing off me. There we go. All right, so first, good morning to everybody. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It's going to get fast and furious here pretty soon. Before we know it, it's going to be free agents going to be walking in the door. Brad's going to be out signing a few guys, or not, but I'm expecting he'll be signing a few guys. And then I saw something this morning by Justin Rodgers, which we'll bring in, talking about Zadarius Smith. I mean, is it even really a question? Zadarius Smith is not going to be back in 25? I wouldn't know why not. He's under contract. It's a very inexpensive contract. And honestly, what he was able to do with limited amount of resources around him, I thought that was just absolutely incredible. The way that he was able to fit into this defense. I mean, he had nothing around him. And I think that we all understand and know that. And, you know, he was up against it. And he was the only thing that we really had outside of Josh Paschal. And Paschal got off to a good start, right? But it seemed to just kind of wither away, if you will. And Paschal was not as dominant as we were hoping he would be. But I think that's why he's probably going to go back to his hybrid role in 25. So I don't know if you saw it this morning. I don't know if you're subscribed or, you know, there's a free edition for Justin Rodgers. If you guys haven't subscribed to him, there's a free edition. And then there's the Founders Edition, which is like $150 a year. And then there's a monthly. I can't even remember what the monthly is. It might be $8 a month or something. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed, at least subscribe for the free one and get his information daily right to your inbox. So did you see this yet, Riley, or no?
I don't think I've seen the specific one that you're referencing. No.
Let me just read through it a little bit, because what he's saying is during the exit interviews that Hutchinson had made a jump from good to elite this season, and then the Smith decision looms in search of a complement. See, and I think that Zadarius Smith is going to be a great complement to Aiden Hutchinson when Aiden comes back. But I think that the Lions would be smart to plan for every scenario, right? You have to have another edge rusher that can back up Smith, that can also back up Aiden. You really need 2, if not 3, edge rushers that can back up your starters. And what he's saying is he started to break it down with some of the numbers, wrapping up the position by position evaluation. He's kind of doing the same thing that we're doing. We're going to go through each position, each week or each day from here till free agency and kind of figure out who stays, who goes, what our opinions are, and kind of break it down like I'm going to do for Kirby today. So the straightforward stats per Justin's article is Aiden had 5 games, 19 tackles, 7.5 sacks, and 45 quarterback pressures. Now, I'm not trying to knock anything off of Aiden, but you have to remember the offensive lines that he went up against for the first 5 weeks were terrible. Everybody was missing. You're talking 3rd and 4th string tackles that he was going up against. So he got off to a very quick start. Sustainable throughout the season? Probably not. Stays healthy throughout the entire season? I still say he probably doesn't get 15 sacks on the year, which is not bad. I just think that it would have complemented the rest of the defense had he, got his 15 and somebody else got their 10. We expected more, but it didn't happen. Davenport got hurt. Hutch got hurt. Everybody got hurt. So it kind of threw everything into like a little bit of a tornado spin, if you will. So Smith, he had 8 games with the Lions, 12 tackles, 4 sacks, 36 quarterback pressures. That to me is, I don't think that's a bad half a season. I expected him to get 5 sacks. So he came up 1 short of my goal for Smith. I just wanted him to get 5 sacks when he joined the Lions. Didn't happen. Josh Paschal had 14 games, so he missed 2. He had 21 tackles, 2 sacks, 31 quarterback pressures. And then Al-Quddin Muhammad, he had 11 tackles, 3 sacks, 24 quarterback pressures. And I think that that's an outstanding season for Muhammad. He's been around the league for a little bit, but he hasn't been a starter, for quite a while. We plucked him off a practice squad, and he comes in and he delivers. Now, again, you put him on this roster with Aiden and Smith next year, I guarantee you he's going to produce more. Advanced metrics per Justin here's Hutchinson reached another level to start his 3rd season. Not only was he leading the league in pressures and sacks when he suffered a season-ending injury, but his win rate, defined as the percentage of pass rush snaps he beat his block, was 38.3%. To add context, Myles Garrett, 2023 Defensive Player of the Year, led qualifying rushers at 23.1%. And this season, 27.3%. I love it when Lions fans put out these crazy, metrics and stats, but we got to rein it in a little bit. I'm not knocking Justin. It's just got to rein it in a little bit here. You have to compare the offenses that Aiden went against and Myles went against. Compare those offensive lines, and it is a stark different reality. So I'm not gonna give all this credit to Aiden for what he did. You put him on the same defense that Myles is on. You put him up against the same offensive lines that Myles went up against, and there's no comparison. Myles Garrett is heads and shoulders above Aiden and what Aiden will ever be. That is my personal opinion, and I hope Aiden makes me eat crow. Like I said yesterday, I like it with a little bit of barbecue sauce. I hope he does. I want him to. But there's just a big difference between what Myles is able to do and what Aiden has done so far. Maybe it slows down for him in year 4. Maybe he takes another leap forward. We'll find out. So the article really didn't say much more than this. It was just kind of giving us some stats. And what I was hoping to see from here is the Smith decision when he says that it looms in search of a compliment. I didn't see anything else in the article that explained why Smith would be a decision that needed to be made this season when he's already under contract. So do you want Smith back?
Absolutely. I think he was, again, we've kind of talked about it. I think he was the perfect addition to the team. And they did that in part because it wasn't just for the rest of this year, but it was for next year, right, as well. Mm-hmm. If Smith is your 3rd, maybe 4th option, is your 4th best rusher, now you're cooking. Now you're in a really good spot. So, yeah, we've not been able to see Smith and Hutch on the field at the same time. But that'd be an option, or a great option, is to have Smith back. So I definitely think having him back would be part of the plan.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, obviously with these guys, on the field together, I think that we're going to see a major jump in what Aiden's going to be able to produce, as well as Zadarius Smith. So just thinking about having a Lee McNeil, DJ Reader, if Aleem is able to get back before the season starts, and Aiden, healthy linebacker group. I mean, sky's the limit for these people, or for this team, right? Each one of these players is going to be able to bring something different to the table, and they just need to bring it together. We haven't been able to see it together. That's the problem.
Yep. We need everybody to punch in at the same time and be working the same shift so we can see what that looks like collectively.
So I guess kind of leading, away from this and what are we going to see this potential next season? Well, not 18 games, but it's starting to heat up again. Now, I spoke on this a little bit throughout the year at a couple of moments when, the 18-game season, it's coming. Like, it's a foregone conclusion. The NFL is going to do it. The question now is the 18-game season going to be implemented within 2 to 3 seasons? Is it going to be implemented before, the next CBA agreement has to be orchestrated, which is, I think, 2030? If memory serves me correct. And how do they do it? So according to this article by Bleacher Report, the 18-game regular season schedule for the NFL could be coming soon, although it may not be implemented ahead of the 2025 season. I think we all understand that. There's just no way that that's going to happen. So according to Mark Maskey of the Washington Post, some NFL owners believe that an extra game may be added to the schedule in the next 2 to 3 seasons. So we're talking anywhere between 2026 and probably 2028 that this could be done. Now, the next collective bargaining agreement, according to this article, it will expire on 2030's season. So that means by 2031, they would definitely have an 18-game season because they're expecting it to not only pass, but, for everybody to, be ready for it and want this. It's obviously extra revenue. It would probably get rid of another preseason game. But my biggest question, and I think the biggest scenario that involves an 18-game season is the bye weeks. Mm-hmm. What are they going to do with the bye weeks? I think it's already a problem in the NFL that there's not enough bye weeks. There's games that are happening, or teams that are playing games, 3-4 games inside of a month, or I'm sorry, 21 days. That can't happen. You can't have teams like the Lions this season, playing 3 games in 11 days. That to me is the worst part of player safety that's not being recognized. If you want your players to be safe, then you have to figure out a way to get these guys rest between games. There's no reason why any team should have less than, 7 days before a game. What do they have to do to make it happen? I think that if you add the 18th game, you take away a preseason game, you add an extra bye week, and I think it's very simple. The AFC is all off, on this week. The NFC is all off on this week. And beyond that, you can figure out a way to throw in some additional breaks for teams that are playing, in games like Thanksgiving, or they are playing in the Christmas week, which I'm not so sure that was a huge success. It might have been numbers wise, but I guess we'll see if it goes forward. So what is your thought on 18 games? Do you agree that it's something that should be done? I mean, I guess what is your overall thought?
Yeah, I mean, I'll happily take an extra Lions game along the way, but I think that you're right, Will, that we have to look at the player safety. And I think that the only time where the Lions where I'm happy to see them playing on a short week really should just be that Thanksgiving game, right? That's tradition. That's going to stay. But otherwise, yeah, you shouldn't have a situation where, and you talked about it a lot during the season, it's too many snaps. It's taking too big of a toll on the body for these guys in too short of a window of time. So yeah, let's get an 18th game. And just like you said, play one less preseason game, give the teams a second bye and spread it out a little bit. The formula and solution seems to be pretty simple and right there in front of them.
I'd say it's definitely it's a simple It's a simple fix. I think it's a simple answer that it's going to get done.
And
But then
John Desage says they should get rid of the early bye. I think that's a good point too. Give teams, get rid of. There's no reason the team should have a bye in week 4 and then somebody else has it like week 14 or 15. Just don't have it so early.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense why they have teams with an early bye like that. If you have 18 games, now you're back to having, a 500 record, right? You don't have a under or over 500 anymore. You're back to it. You can finish at 500. And I think that you have to split it up. I think that you should put a bye week in the last third of the season and a bye week probably in the second third of the season. You play, I guess, 6 games, and you maybe have a bye week somewhere between that 7th and 12th game, and then you're going to have another bye week towards the end of the season or something in between that. Maybe it is the 8th week in the 14th week or the 8th week in the 13th week that they put these buys in. But at any rate, I think it needs to be constructed in a fashion to where no team is going to play a game on only 4 days of rest. I think that is the number one thing that has to get fixed if they're going to do this. If they add an extra game and we still see teams going out there with no rest, and that's where, in my opinion, a lot of these injuries come from, is teams that are having to go and play on such short notice, right? No time off, no time to rest, no time to heal. And 7 days isn't enough time either, but it's their job. At least they're committed to 7 days we can get ready for the next game. But you're putting these guys under immense pressure. They might be traveling to the West Coast, they're on the East Coast, and they've got to turn around and come back and play on a Thursday, and they just played on Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
That's asinine. I mean, it's dangerous. And I think that is the most important thing that has to be fixed. If Roger Goodell really values these players and player safety, this is a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. Another aspect of that would be maybe they look at expanding the game day roster, have a few extra spots so you can have a few more people dressed. But overall, for sure, I think, you've got to spread it out. Give us an extra game, get rid of the early bye, and give everybody 2 buys.
I love the idea of the expanded roster. It's something that I've spoken about a few times in the last season or two. Why wouldn't you want to have an expanded roster? Like, what is the big deal here? You've got a 53-man roster, but you can only dress 46?
Yeah, 46, 48.
Or 48, whatever it is. That doesn't make any sense to me. You're already paying the top 51. At a minimum, the top 51 should be dressed on game day. But why not have an expanded roster, add a few extra guys to each team? Then maybe you don't have all these issues towards the end of the season where you're out of players because of injury like the Lions just went through. And I'm not going to just use the Lions as the analogy here. It can happen to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it has happened to a lot of other teams. I mean, they did the right thing starting with the quarterback, and having the emergency quarterback, but now you have to take it to the next level and make sure that these teams have enough players. And I guess what I was reading about the 18-game season, it kind of unveiled the players have to sit for one game. That was being tossed around as part of the solution, that you couldn't play in one game for that entire season, no matter what. But my question is, what happens to the quarterback? You tell me the quarterback has to sit for a game? I don't think so. I doubt that would happen. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah.
All right, so next up, we're going to be talking about Aaron Glenn for a moment. So the drama has already started in New York for Aaron Glenn. When I watched his press conference, or I listened to it this morning, I don't know how you feel about this one, Riley, or you guys in the chat. You let me know, especially in the comments below. Did Aaron Glenn seem a bit off in his press conference? I mean, there was Woody that was starting the press conference, and then you had the GM and Aaron Glenn sitting next to each other. And I have to be honest, I haven't watched everything that's gone on in New York, so I don't know if this was the first press conference or a second press conference or an introductory press conference or what it was. But Aaron Glenn just seemed a bit off to me. I've heard the rumors, and I know you're going to speak to one, about what maybe Aaron Glenn's trying to do, but he just doesn't seem the same Aaron. He didn't seem as polished. When he was in Detroit, he seemed a little bit more polished, a little bit more full thoughts, right? He just talking to talk, but he was well prepared. Maybe he's tired. I don't know, but he just didn't seem like the same Aaron Glenn to me. Maybe he, let his hair down a little bit more, felt a little bit more comfortable, or maybe that's the issue. Maybe he doesn't feel as comfortable right now, but he just didn't seem the same. What were your thoughts when you listened or saw his press conferences this week?
Yeah, it was interesting because it was a day yesterday full of introductory press conferences. You had Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, Pete Carroll in Vegas. And then, Glenn was obviously there in New York. And what I saw on Twitter was a lot of people saying he's trying so hard to sound like Dan Campbell, right? I think we probably all saw and heard sentiments kind of along those lines. But I don't think that Aaron Glenn was trying to sound like somebody else. I think that introductory press conferences, they get heavily scrutinized as it is. And I don't know. I think he told a lot of the New York media, he looked him right in the eye and he's like, I'm not going to answer this question so you guys can keep asking me. I'm paraphrasing. He's like, you can keep asking the same question different ways, but you're not going to get the answer. So I think, it'll be interesting. I think that's the New York media is obviously extremely tough. So Glenn might have just been trying to put his foot down early, but I don't know. I didn't necessarily see that he seemed unpolished, but then again, I don't recall Aaron Glenn speaking a ton other than, briefly during press conferences during his time with the Lions. So I didn't think anything stood out, but that was the criticism he was taking, was that maybe he was trying too hard to sound like Dan Campbell.
I definitely did not get that. I think that Aaron Glenn has always been Aaron Glenn. I think that he's always been who he is. He stands where his feet are. He's his own person. I don't think he's trying to emulate Dan Campbell. I don't think he's trying to be like Dan Campbell. If anything, I think that Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn are very similar as it is anyway.
When you say you felt he seemed unpolished,
he just didn't seem as prepared yesterday. Like he just didn't seem like the normal Aaron Glenn. And maybe it was because he was talking while he was sitting down and he had the mic in his face and he wasn't standing up at the podium for the part that I saw. And that part to me just didn't seem like the normal Aaron Glenn. The normal Aaron Glenn that we've watched, over the last 4 seasons. He's just very, like I said yesterday, he's just very stoic. He's just very prepared. He's able to answer anything. He just kind of rolls with the punches. He just didn't seem like he was that prepared yesterday. And I know I keep saying prepared, but I don't know another word right now to really describe. It just didn't seem the same. And I get it. A lot of people saying, why do we even care anymore? He's not a Lion. Well, we're just following the guy's career right now and kind of seeing where things are going to shape up for him, because quite honestly, the drama's already started in New York with Aaron Rodgers. And that's where I was saying that, yesterday when he was talking about Aaron Rodgers and the whole, we're going to sit down, we're going to have a conversation, we're going to go through the roster, and, we're not going to, what do you say? We're not going to do this in a short amount of time. We're going to talk it out. We're going to get through it. We're going to discuss everything. And he was trying to obviously not give, the media what they were looking for. But Aaron Glenn, obviously being the new head coach for the Jets, he's got roster, issues to deal with. And the biggest headache on that roster is Aaron Rodgers.
No doubt.
And here's what he had said. He said, talked to Aaron Glenn this morning. This is Jay Glazer. I talked to Aaron Glenn this morning. He said, I plan to go meet with Aaron Rodgers and we'll definitely come up with a decision much sooner than later. I don't want to drag this out. So I think that sent a clear message to Aaron right then and there that he's not going to tiptoe around this. I need to know, are you in? Are you out? Are you retiring? Are you going to go do ayahuasca for the next 6 months? What are you doing? Because I need somebody that's in or I need you out. And I don't think that Aaron Glenn is going to tiptoe at all. I really don't. I think that he's going to tell Aaron Rodgers what he needs, and that's going to be up to Aaron Rodgers to either fall in line and be a good soldier or not. I think that Aaron Rodgers has the ability to, I guess, put a negative light on what Aaron Glenn's going to try to do in New York. And I don't want to see that for Glenn. I don't. I think that Aaron Rodgers needs to go, and they just need to find somebody else and move forward. I just don't want to see Aaron Rodgers really throw a big wrinkle into Glenn's career. I respect the hell out of the dude. I really do. Hate seeing him go, but Wish him well from afar, and I just want to see him do well in New York. So the drama's starting. They've got to figure out the Aaron Rodgers scenario, and Rodgers obviously has not really impressed since he's been in New York. Battled major injury, decent season last year, I guess. 38.97 for yards, 28 TDs, 11 interceptions. I mean, not terrible. Took 40 sacks though. So, what do you think about the Aaron Rodgers deal?
Yeah, it's interesting because you have to wonder. Usually, you would think he's going to be consulted and have a say in the head coach decision. Yeah, if he were a younger player, I'm sure that would be part of it. I don't know if they're planning on having Aaron Rodgers back next year. It seems like maybe he still has a little bit left in the tank. I'm with you. He killed us for all these years, but got to respect the player for what he's accomplished on the field. But certainly, Aaron Glenn, you don't want to go to this is your job. This is your time to be a head coach. You played for that organization. All roads led to this point. If you're Aaron Glenn, and you don't want to be sabotaged at all by any drama, especially from the quarterback position, you just want to know who your guy is going to be.
I think the biggest sabotage here is cap charges. If Aaron Rodgers retires, that would be the best thing that could happen to New York right now. If he comes back for one more season, then not only are the Jets going to get charged, a $35 million option bonus, and that is by the first regular season game, he would get a $35 million option bonus, and then $2.5 million base salary. So the dead cap would balloon to $63 million in 2026 if he comes back for this year. If he just retires, a lot of that goes away, and then they can move on. I don't think that this season is going to be a season where, the Jets are, of course they're always thinking Super Bowl, but let's be real. Are they going to be able to make it to the Super Bowl this year with or without Rodgers? Probably not. So why not just move on? If he doesn't play for the Jets in 2025, if he's cut or he retires, then the Jets will have a $49 million dead cap charge. If it were me, I'd love to save, $13, $15, $16 million, whatever it is, and not have to deal with Aaron Rodgers. But I guess we'll find out soon enough what's going to happen in New York.
It'd be interesting to see if he's not the quarterback, who is. Do they draft a guy? Do they bring somebody in? There's all kinds of, the quarterback carousel is always a thing of interest, right? What's Stafford going to do in LA? Where's Darnold going to end up playing? And then certainly, we have the interest in seeing what happens with Rodgers just because of Aaron Glenn taking over as head coach there in New York.
I don't even know where the Jets pick in the first round. What are they, top 15 this year?
I think so. Let me double check here.
Oh, I see it. Pick 11. Nope, that was last year. I'm sorry. That was last year.
So they are. Oh, they're 7.
They're number 7.
Number 7 overall. Yep.
So they could get a quarterback there.
Yeah,
I think they could. They could move around if they needed to. I don't know if this is the draft to really grab a quarterback.
Yeah, that's. I've got a buddy that's a Tennessee Titans fan. He was saying that to me the other day. He's like, man, of all the years to have the number 1 pick, usually you're picking number 1, you're going for a quarterback, and the hope would be that there's a clear-cut guy, and there just doesn't seem to be this year. It's Cam Ward, Shador Sanders. I'm excited for draft coverage coming around the corner to see because, there's no clear-cut, no-brainer, locked-in number 1 pick.
Well, you can always move back and stack picks, which I think is probably the smartest thing to do if you're not confident on a quarterback or, a game-changing left tackle. Then, you just bounce back, add a couple of draft picks. So Zach Ertz, sticking with NFL news right now. So, look, Zach he's getting up there in age. And he said that this season he is not going to retire. He's just not. And he feels that he's just scratching the surface with Jaden Daniels. And he's had, one of the most exciting seasons of his career so far. Zach Ertz just said this very simply. He said, I just want to make that clear that I'm not retiring. I had so much fun this year. I feel rejuvenated. I feel young. This is the most amount of games I've played in a season at 34, and I felt like I played good football this year. So for me, it's just figuring out everything going forward and then they know how I feel about this place. So probably going to see Zach Ertz again this season in Washington. And I mean, why not? I mean, the guy's having the time of his life. He's obviously clicked with Jaden Daniels, and he's got this resurgence to his career. And I guess I'm not surprised. And according to Washington, I would assume that they're going to want to have him come back. So what do you think about Zach Ertz coming back? I think he had a great year, man. I really do. And the only reason I'm talking about Zach is because I guess there's a little special place in my heart for Zach, being on the Lions last season for just a hot moment. But he's always been a damn good football player. And watching him come back last year and just not really having the season that he wanted to the season before this year, he really bounced back in a big way with Jaden Daniels. And he said in the very beginning of the season, you could just feel it was different in that room when Jaden Daniels became the quarterback. So Zach Ertz coming back in 2025, as long as the team wants him, hopefully the Commanders.
Yeah, he had 66 receptions on the year, 654 yards, and caught 7 touchdowns. And it's clear the chemistry that he has, that he's developed with Jaden Daniels. It's so unique to be that confident in a rookie quarterback. And no reason to expect Jaden Daniels to slow down or not have as good of a second year. So, yeah, I'm with you. You know, it was fun seeing Zach Ertz. What did we see him like one playoff game, 1 or 2 catches or something? But it was awesome to see him with the Lions. But
actually, I don't even think he suited up for us. I think he was a scratch.
Right.
I think he was a scratch in that playoff game.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Nuts. It was kind of weird. We brought him in and then didn't do anything with him.
Yeah, it didn't end up using him. But
look at the season he had this year. So what was happening last year that he couldn't help us? Because that was right at the same time that Sam Laporta was banged up.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, Sam was able to come back.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. So of course there's no better day than a day without Jerry Jones in the news, right? Came across this article last night. Jerry, Stephen Jones, they all give conflicting answers on Deion Sanders. So apparently Deion Sanders was offered a job. At least that's what's being rumored, that he was offered a job in Dallas. So clearly he must have turned it down. And what I'm gathering from this is I don't think anything less than Jerry is just salty. Jerry scorned, I guess is how I would put it. He's just scorned that he was turned down. But let me read through this for a minute. Well, I guess we'll vet it out here. We'll flush it out. So when Dallas Cowboys began their head coaching search, Deion Sanders was one of the first names in the mix and was seemingly a serious candidate. But on Monday this week, at the new head coach Brian Schottenheimer's introductory press conference, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones had conflicting answers about Deion Sanders' legitimacy as a head coach candidate. So according to the DLLS Cowboys' Joseph Hoyt, Stephen Jones said that Sanders was a serious candidate and that both he and Jerry Jones, quote, think the world of, end quote, Sanders, and that was per Athletic's John Machota. Now, Jerry Jones differed in his answer, saying that Sanders, quote, was never a serious candidate, end quote. Now, when asked about this conversation with Sanders, Jerry Jones said this, quote, already has a job, end quote. So I found that really interesting. Jerry Jones is coming out and saying that, Deion already has a job and he was never a serious candidate. Doesn't that sound like a Jerry thing to say when you were probably just turned down by this legend that, played for the Cowboys and has had a pretty polarizing career in the, college ranks as a head coach, and probably someone that would have been able to bring, I guess, a resurgence back to the Cowboys. Maybe, some players would want to come play for the Cowboys. Maybe some coaches would want to come back and help coach the Cowboys. It would have given the Cowboys a big spark, I think, if Deion Sanders would have been on that sideline. Do I think that Deion's ready to coach the NFL? I don't. I absolutely don't. But what do I know? He absolutely could be. I think that the way that he teaches and preaches, I think it suits the college ranks right now. I don't think he's going to get away with that crap in, the NFL. I just don't. So Jerry seems like he's scorned. It's almost like, the girl he had a crush on just kind of said no. I don't know why you'd give an answer like that and say that he was never a serious candidate. What do you think about this, Riley?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm curious, as you say, what is it about his coaching? Because there was a lot of doubt if he would be able to do well. I mean, he turned Colorado around really quick. In particular, is there anything that makes you think that it wouldn't translate over to the NFL ranks?
There's a different stylistic approach to college and NFL. There always has been. That's why a lot of college coaches, they fail in the NFL, always.
Mm-hmm.
So leading young men, right? Impressionable minds. You're talking 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, adults, but you know what I'm saying? It's a bit different to lead them versus leading grown men in a room.
Mm-hmm.
Way different stylistic approach. And I feel it's just the way that he approaches, the way that he teaches and preaches. I don't think he's going to get that similar response out of grown men in a locker room as he would in college.
Mm-hmm.
As far as his brain and what he's been able to put down, in the college rank, yeah, it's been good. The way that he's been able to turn a program around, but then he left. He left the first one, and now he's at Colorado. What has he done this year? What was Colorado's record?
They went to a bowl game. They played BYU. They came from the dumps when he took over.
Colorado was a dumpster fire. It's not hard to turn that place around.
Yeah, they were 9-4 on the year, so good team. But yeah, I think his cachet, his sway certainly is going to be very effective for the 18-year-old,
mm-hmm.
The 19-year-old. But yeah, maybe that doesn't carry over as much to the professional ranks. And you're right. There's a litany of people that have been excellent college football coaches that just flamed out, didn't do as well in the NFL. So it's interesting. I've never really given it a ton of deep thought as far as would he do well in the NFL, but yeah, Jerry Jones' response to it is interesting. And that's not the only interesting thing he said yesterday. There were a couple others that I didn't hear the audio of, but I read the quotes and just thought, man, what is going on in Dallas? But yeah, certainly it just seems like, well, I didn't, like you said, it's the girl that wasn't interested in you anyway. So you feigned that you were not interested, even though you were. So
right. Yeah. So I was trying to look back here at Colorado's records over the years. Let's see.
Oh, they were in the Pac-12. I mean, that's obviously where Utah was at the time. And I think they were like a 1-win team before he took over.
Yeah, that was in 2022. But when you even go back, to 17, they were 5-7 for 3 years, then 4-2. I don't know how they went 4-8. I don't even know how they went 4-2. Oh, that's COVID year. 4-8, then 1-11, then 4-8 in 2023. So his first year as head coach, they flopped. They went 4-8. Now they turned it around. They went, 9-4. So the next step for him this next season, he has to have double-digit wins for this to be a success in Colorado with as much money as they've put into that. But to my earlier point, my earlier statement, you kind of echoed the same thing, is it's much different coaching college kids than it is NFL players. There are so many, everyone has their drama and their attitudes, and, I think the NIL has changed a lot of what's going on, in the college scene now. I think it's kind of tainted it, to be honest with you. But then again, I think the NC2A was running away with everyone's money too. So it's got to be shared. I just don't see it working for Deion in the NFL just yet. Maybe in a couple more years. I mean, let him get a taste of the biggest markets, right, in college, and then see if he can translate it to the NFL. I think he's a super intelligent dude. I think he's a wonderful human. I love everything about Deion, and I just don't know if it translates. But you know what? You're never going to know unless you try.
Sure.
So I'd love to see him try at some point.
Now, I know obviously you're big into scouting. You're big into the draft side of things, but I don't know if I've ever asked you or heard you talk about it on the show. Do you have a favorite college team, Will? Do you have an affinity towards any particular team?
I won't answer that.
Got it.
I can't answer that. I think some people know, but I always try to. I always try to keep that stuff separate.
Sure.
I'll tell you this: Appalachian State University is one of my favorite colleges.
Love it. Okay.
Appalachian State. If y'all can figure out why, you let me know in the chat. I was there, by the way. I was there.
Does the chat know?
I mean, they should, because I think most of this chat is a certain faction of college fan as Lions fans. But yeah, anyway, we'll move forward. So the Jaguars, they really screwed up, Riley. They screwed up big time. And I think that we all understand what happened here. But when I did my first and only Jaguars video on their head coaching opportunity for Ben Johnson, I said it in that video. If they do not get rid of Trent Baalke, they will not get Ben Johnson. That's what happened. So according to Pro Football Rumors, I don't know much about this site. Like, I don't know if it's a great site yet. I really haven't vetted it. But they come up with some good stuff from time to time, at least some good talking points. So even Liam Cohn, his about face, in running from the Bucs back to the Jags, it was because of Baalke getting fired. And I think the main thing to take away here is Ben Johnson, he had some aggressive interest from the Jaguars, and it was a team that fit him perfectly. And matter of fact, I mean, it was in his top three. Just like St. Brown said, it was the Jags, it was the Raiders, and it was the Bears. Had the Jaguars fired Baalke before, or the second interview with Ben Johnson would be the head coach of the Jaguars right now. I guarantee it. And we wouldn't even be talking all the trash about Ben that we are. But he turned down the Jaguars to accept the Bears offer. And I think it's all tied to the fact that Baalke was there. I don't know what respect he has for Ryan Poles. Maybe he sees something different than the rest of us see, but I don't know. I guess the Jags, they discussed a big money offer with Johnson. According to Albert Breer and early reports, that Shad Khan was willing to boot Baalke for the right head coaching candidate. Did he not think that Ben Johnson was the right head coaching candidate from the beginning? I don't know. I guess we're going to see this season just how good Ben Johnson is. And we'll see if he's able to make that transition. But they also lost out on Aaron Glenn because, again, Trent Baalke was the issue. Nobody wanted to work with Baalke. Everybody knew this in the media. A lot of people knew this as fans. Apparently, Shad Khan knew it, at his interview where he said the door's open. I'm willing to do what I need to do. But he didn't do it until it was way too late. All of the top candidates for head coaching positions were already getting locked up. So how much did you pay attention to this? And I guess, do you feel that if Baalke was fired, do you think that Ben Johnson would be the head coach of the Jags today?
Yeah, I paid very close attention to it. I think I kind of err on the other side. I think that Ben Johnson to Chicago was a perfect fit. Honestly, even as a Detroit Lions fan, if I was Ben Johnson, I get that move. I get that decision. That's where I would have gone if I were him. Even though it's in the same division, I don't think that would have, impact my personal decision. What's interesting too is yesterday, Al Davis for the Raiders, they were interviewing him, and he also said that they never made an offer to Ben Johnson. That it sounded like they weren't really even in the mix for Ben Johnson.
Who said this? The Raiders?
Yeah.
And said, I read a report yesterday that said the exact opposite. But this came out of Davis's mouth?
Yes.
He's scorned.
Yeah, Mark Davis, sorry, not Al Davis. Yeah, he said, yep, no, we didn't think we had Ben Johnson. We've never made an offer to Ben Johnson. So, but yeah, I mean, it's about face. Like you said, it's covering up. We didn't get the guy that we